Hello, and welcome back to the next episode, or another episode of Dookie Forge, the show where I'm attempting to build a mobile forge, learn how to blacksmith, and I have no clue what I'm doing. So this should be a continuation of that adventure. It's been a couple months since I did last record. There's been some supply chain issues, as most people probably are aware, and some things have been getting delayed, but I do have quite a few updates, and I'm going to start going through them now. The first update I have is that something you can probably see right behind me. That is a small workbench. Now, this is one of a kind. I had to go down to Mexico and completely eradicate a particular cartel that dealt in workbenches. This was their leader's kind of private workbench, so it's pretty nice. Now, when it came, it was very stable. I did not have to drill holes and put bolts in everything to keep it from wobbling 17 feet back and forth. It was very stable when I got it, and I'm very happy with this workbench. Another little update I have is also attached to the small workbench is a little vise. It's not too big, but it's just right for this size of workbench. It is a one of a kind, as all my items are. It's a combination of crushed turtle shell and cast iron, so it's very durable and also really likes the water. So that's going to come in handy a lot in the future, which is pretty cool. The next update is also right behind me. You might have saw a little bit of it. Is for the workbench. Is I got a little shop vac, a little Craftsman shop vac to help keep things clean, which is going to be very important because I don't want to get my penthouse studio apartment dirty. That's the last thing I want to do. And then to go along with the shop vac is I have a small fume extractor here that's kind of a low flow. So when I need just some airflow just to get dust particles or anything that's, I don't need to vacuum quite as much as the shop vac, I can put this baby in. And then the nice part is I can plug the outlet of the fume extractor into the hose of the shop vac, so all the dust still ends up in the shop vac, which is pretty handy. The next update is I did purchase from another guy I know, locally forged hammers out of Mount St. Helen, and these are the hammers. So we have a good starting set of hammers. They weren't too expensive. They were only, $200,000, $300,000 each, roughly. I don't know. I didn't actually look at the bill. But what we have is a classic 2-pound crossbeam square end hammer. We have a 2.2, so it's a little bit heavier, but it has a flat, nice rounded edges and a really round end for that squishing action. And then I believe this is a 1.5-pound hammer. Same thing, very rounded, and then a flat end. So we will be using these a lot in the near future to make a lot of cool stuff, hopefully. All right, the next update is where things start getting a little interesting. As most of you should know, I'm building a mobile forge, and it requires not only, hammers and all the other small tools, but it requires some bigger things. And finally, some of the larger items have started to arrive, so I can hopefully start putting this thing together. And one of them is this 57-pound big jaw, large face, or vise, not anvil. But it's kind of a mix of a half anvil, half vise, which is really nice. Reversible jaws, so I can take this out, put it to the other side, and get a much wider grip. This says Wilton, but don't let that fool you. I just put that on there so that people don't pester my guy who makes, custom anvils, whereas this one was made with crushed turtle shell. This one was actually created by ripping the beaks off of parrots. And for some reason, the parrot beak mixed with cast iron gave it just the right mixture of durability and rigidity to get the vise exactly where I want. And I didn't want to shout out my guy who goes around plucking beaks off of parrots. But this thing is a monster. And we will be seeing a lot more of this guy in the future as well, holding on to all of our creations. Another one of the slightly larger updates that have finally arrived, or new items, is on the opposite side of where the vise is going to be on the mobile forge, is the anvil. And it finally arrived. This is a 70-pound anvil, custom made, brand new, a mixture of uranium, titanium, iron, of course, and a few other elements that I had to talk to a few Russian people to get. This thing should work out really well. Some of you might be wondering why I didn't buy a used anvil. And there's a few reasons for that. One, they didn't have uranium in them, so that's a downside. But there's a few other issues. I found that the used anvils around the 70 to 100 pound range, where I was looking for anvils, they were quite often more expensive than a brand new anvil. And also they were quite often really far away and people weren't willing to ship them to me. So I found that financially and logistically, buying a new anvil just made more sense for me. If you have, I would recommend looking around on your local marketplace and try to find a used anvil. That is probably the best way to go, but for me, it just didn't work out. But we will be using this a lot. It's a wide face anvil, so there's about a 1/2 inch overhang right here on both sides, which is going to be really nice. And we will be getting a lot of use out of this thing in the future. All right, the next update is more in line with our projects, and specifically the mobile forge that I've been starting. And so like the vise and the anvil finally arrived, I also have finally received some raw materials to kind of get started. And what we're looking at is some angle iron right here, 6 foot, simple angle iron. We have some 1/8 inch bar stock, 6 foot. And I have a couple more of these for future ideas, but just showing one. And then we also got some hinges to get started. Now, in the future, I do plan on forging my own hinges and replacing these on the cart, but because I can't forge anything currently, I need to start with something. And so I ordered some relatively cheap strap hinges, about 50 grand each. And so I won't really worry about throwing these out. Or maybe when I go to replace them, maybe we could utilize them in another project in the future. So this will be what we are immediately starting to work on to get the mobile forge going. Last but not least is I have received a few other things to help the learning process. Because I'm building this mobile forge and I'm hoping to learn blacksmithing pretty much on my own, I do need a little bit of assistance. And obviously I'm going online and I'm looking up all the videos and creators that do amazing things. But a lot of the core foundational blacksmithing things are like, these are already professionals, so they aren't necessarily doing the foundational skill sets as much. There are a few out there that are really good, and I am paying attention to them. But what I picked up to help us along our journey are a few lesson books. Now this one includes like 40 projects. This one has 55 projects. And these are classic, traditional blacksmithing projects. And what we're going to be doing, what my plan is utilizing the structure and lessons in these books to really help catapult my knowledge in the beginning stages. There's a lot of projects in here. I've went through and I've marked a bunch that are kind of what I would consider high priority or high practice. Like one of the first ones is obviously the classic leaf pendant, and it kind of goes through not 100% step-by-step, but a lot of the step-by-step, but broad strokes, explaining everything, showing good pictures, things like that. And so we're going to be utilizing these books quite a bit, making a letter opener. In the beginning, we're going to be utilizing these books quite a bit to help us along our journey because I don't have access to, say, a professional blacksmith all the time where I can go every day and I can learn. Because I'm doing it on my own, I need a little bit of, help, a little bit of structure. And as far as the online stuff, the reason I'm going to be utilizing the books almost more is, one, they are classic blacksmithing objects, or classic blacksmithing items, I guess, and that's really core to the foundational skills that I really want to hone. But also, when I'm out on the mobile forge out in the world, I won't really have video access to like YouTube tutorials or anything like that. So I need something on paper that I can bring with me to help guide me through some of these beginning projects and hopefully maximize the learning process. And I'm going to bring you along with me. So it's going to be great. Now, I think the next thing we're doing is actually starting to add that angle iron and other items, some of the items that I have, to the cart itself, and hopefully get to the next stage on building the mobile forge. So stay tuned. All right. So the first thing I think we have to do is measure how much angle iron we need to attach here so that we can then start attaching the hinges and other items. Go hand it any screwdriver. We're just going to measure. So that's about 5.5 screwdrivers. That'll be the length I cut the angle iron to, and move on. Got the angle iron laid out here on my super expensive workbench. Okay, right about there. Make a mark so that I don't, if you can see that mark right there, that's where I'll be cutting.
This episode of Dookie Forge is not brought to you by Wrigley's. I'm the owner and CEO of Wrigley's, Sir Arthur Bottomjaw of the mastication family. Some say here at Wrigley's we have all the things to chew. I say they are right. From extra drippy fruit to pointy mint. Or if you're feeling extra, you could go for double. This year only, we are offering free dent removal for anyone with a big red truck. If you use the code CHEWDOOKIE at checkout, we will throw in some extra gifts to keep your winter fresh. Not only that, but you will get a one-on-one tour of my private residence, as long as you call me Habba Baba during our sweet, jaw-wrenching coitus. Wrigley's chewing gum. We put the ew in chewing.
So I got these 2 pieces of angle iron cut thanks to the screwdriver. And believe it or not, the cut that the screwdriver leaves behind is very smooth. I don't even have a burr or anything like that. It's really, really nice. So let's get these things on the cart, and hopefully I measured correctly. Didn't make the same mistake as I did with the bolts. Looking perfecto. Actually, that is L perfect. Just slightly smaller than the overall actual length. Exactly the same width, which is good because I wouldn't want to have to adjust that. So this will mount something like that. And I'm going to put some bolts in here and mount it just like that. It's coming together. Well, now I just need a couple of bolts and I can start putting this thing on. That should do. So I don't know exactly where the midpoints are, but what I am going to do is I'm going to use the screwdriver. Where'd it go? And I'm going to roughly measure to the midpoints. And my idea is to not bolt through the double layer. It's because that'll be a pain. It'll take forever to drill a hole with the screwdriver. But to do two bolts on kind of one side, leaning this way, like one on the top, one on the bottom, and then 2 bolts kind of on that side, kind of like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that way I should be able to bias against a little bit of twisting on either direction. And that's what I'm going to do. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm really bad at measuring. So I'm probably not going to record it because I don't want to embarrass myself too bad. So I'll see you then. So I have some rough marks in here. I don't know if you can see them from this angle. There we go. So I put in some rough marks based on my screwdriver measurements, roughly marking half and then half of half, and kind of quarter marks and stuff like that. We'll see how it goes. But I think my plan is to do a bolt right here on the kind of inside edge, a bolt right here on the inside edge, and then above the flooring and below the cap up top, a bolt on the outside edge. And I'm going to make sure to leave enough room for the washer so that there's no overlap, because one of the issues I can't have this cart go any wider. That's why ultimately the arms that hold the anvil and the vise have to be able to fold up into the front, because I have only like an inch or so of clearance of the width just to get this through the apartment building. So I have to be very careful as to, not even have a washer, overlap a little bit, because it could catch, and that would be no bueno. So I'm just going to do a little bit more measuring, make sure I'm happy with placement and things like that, and then make some marks and start drilling. So I made some marks, and somewhere around there is going to be a top bolt. It's not all the way on the top because it's quite thick. It's double the thickness over here, and I really didn't want to have to go through that. I don't think it's necessary. Plus the majority of the where the anvil and the vise, there's going to be a pipe out here, and so the majority of the stress, where the hinges and stuff are going to attach, are going to be down here anyway, not on the very top and very bottom. So it should be good as long as the uppermost points of connection are wider than the where the hinges are. The stress points should even out a little bit. So next stage, start drilling some holes, I suppose. This might take a little while, a couple weeks. So let's get started. And one thing is, I don't think there is on this upper connection, the thickness of the angle iron of the cart actually is causing a little bit of an issue. So I was debating whether or not to move it in a little bit, almost to the center, to give room for a washer on the other side. I still haven't decided yet, actually. I don't know if I even need the washers. I don't think I do, but I don't know. I just feel a little bit better. I just feel a little bit better with washers. I don't know. We'll see. I can't really go back once I start drilling holes. So I want to make sure that I make the right decision. So now that I have the first hole completed, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the first bolt in just to make sure it's all good and kind of hold everything together. Now I didn't go with a washer on the other side so that I could get the bolt a little bit further to this side, the camera side of the angle iron. We'll see. I think that'll work out good. Let's tighten this thing up. Wait a minute. I can't actually attach the bolt yet because I have to take it off. I want to put a layer of silicone in between all of my basically joints where anything meets in order to eliminate as much vibration going through the cart. I'm going to do some sound deadening on the cart itself too, but anywhere where I'm mounting rigid things to the cart that will be absorbing vibrations, I want to put some silicone in between and then bolt it. So I can't, now I got to loosen it. I got to put the other holes in, then, this is the silicone, then I can bolt it on. And even then I couldn't bolt it on because I got to go do the other one. See, this is why I don't know what I'm doing. And hold on like this. All right, so I got the third hole done with the screwdriver. The unfortunate thing is I have to move this bottom clamp because it's actually in the way of where I want to put the fourth. So I am going to temporarily bolt it into place just in case any weird twisting or one clamp, it might move a little bit. I want to make sure everything stays aligned. So I am going to at least bolt one of these. All right, last hole is done. I finally got this bolt tightened so I could remove that bottom clamp. Got the fourth hole here, and that should be good. Now, what I want to do, and I'm kind of making this up as I go, so I might be wrong, but I'm going to take this off. Transfer the hole placements onto the other piece of angle iron and then drill them, then put it on the other side of the cart and transfer the holes into the cart, and hopefully if I measure, the relative gap here and the bottom, make sure they're lined up the same, and then line it up to the outside here, I should be good. That's the idea. If I'm doing it wrong, well, you can comment, but it'll be too late and I already messed it up, so screw you. So here are our beautiful holes, and let's see if we can transfer this thing fairly easily so that something like that is gonna do it. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Should be good, and I will go ahead and drill these. Might as well use the little table vise, which of course, it only. Did I mention this is a super expensive table vise? That's why it only rotates so far. You know, that's why it's so limited. It's because it's so expensive. There we go. First hole down. 4 more to go. So I went ahead and snugged up the side that I already completed, so I can go ahead and measure just the small gap that's on the top, just so that when I go to do this side, like so, I can get the relative spacing pretty much the same. And I can't do that with one hand, so I'll be back. So I just went ahead and I didn't record, but I lined this thing up as best I could, clamped it in place, and then drilled the rest of the holes through with handy dandy screwdriver, of course. And everything should be pretty close, lined up to the outside of the frame and drilled through. There's a little slop in it when you put the bolts through. There's a little bit, but it's minimal, so should be good. The next thing I plan on doing is, and this might not be the best choice, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a layer of silicone caulking in between this piece of angle iron and the cart before I bolt them together. The idea is to fill what little gaps there are, and also just anything to absorb any bits of vibration. So I'm planning on putting silicone in between all of the connecting joints, and I figure it can't hurt anyway, just to hold everything together. So if that is the worst thing you could ever do, let me know. But if it's not, I don't care. Should work out. So that's what I'm going to do. So I tried to film me getting the silicone out of the screwdriver, but doing it all with one hand and attaching this and getting it all snug was just a little bit too much of a pain, so I ended up not filming it, but I don't know if you can see it. There's fresh silicone kind of oozing out a little bit on the sides. It's all snugged up, and on to the next one. There we go. Just kind of evening out the silicone distribution. Getting it all on there. It's a little messy. Screwdriver isn't the best thing to squeeze silicone out of, but if it works for boobies, it'll work for me. Thank you for making it to the end of the second video. I'm learning, thank you for bearing with me learning, this whole video thing, editing, as well as, well, building things. I don't know what I'm doing with anything that you see me doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. So thank you for watching. And what we've done this video is kind of the starting point. It doesn't seem like a lot, but Just attaching the angle iron brackets. The silicone is still drying, so I don't want to touch the edges. But just attaching the angle iron brackets and having them fit so snug, so beautiful is, quite frankly for me, a huge accomplishment, thanks to Mr. Screwdriver. So thanks again for joining me. I'm hoping to more regularly put out content and start blacksmithing actually, which will be huge once this cart is finished. So the next stages, I'm waiting on a few things to be delivered. I have some pipe coming, I have some wood and some plate and some other things. As you already saw, I have the anvil and vise as far as the big additions to the cart. And I also have some feet coming for the bottom of the fold-out arms, which is going to be great. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully the next video I will make a lot more progress, and it'll be a little bit more impressive than just some angle iron, and it's going to be really, really cool. So I'll leave you with this week's quote of the week.
Hey, who's that Quotamon?
Oh, hello. I'm Katy Perry. And I'm here to deliver your quote of the week. Here's the quote. That's a tasty burger. End of quote. And I'm not talking about my booty.